Evening all. Right. Little video for your viewing pleasure. A couple of mates of mine have asked me to stick up the spring change of my Army Armament L85A1. Now, most of you have probably seen hundreds of these. You know, gearbox out, spring out, blah 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 blah. However, mine has got the blowback when it actually fires. And I don't think I've seen many, if any at all, where they show you how to do the spring change with the blowback. So, that's what I'm going to do. First off, as you can see, I've already whipped off the front guard just so it's out of the way and not going to cause me any issues. Second thing we do, it's simple. Little push pin there, goes all the way through, pops out, chuck it on the floor. No. Chuck it on the table, don't lose it. Make sure the bolt is forwards, otherwise you'll have trouble sliding it off. In. Slidey, slidey. Pops it out. Dump that on the deck. And we don't need that. Oops. At the moment. Now the blowback on these is actually dead simple. Before I take the gearbox out, I'll show you. There's a little block that sits on top of the gearbox that's got a spring-loaded little peg that drops down like that. Well, that way. So as the spring and the piston comes back like this, it catches the little blowback. So it makes it do that. And obviously, not obviously, because some of you don't know, in the top of the gun here, there is a little bar attached to the top of there. I don't know if you can see that moving inside there. Well, that's got a little, like a little hook on it, and so has the block. When that comes back, it catches on the bolt, pulls that back, lets go of it at the back end, and it allows it to go forwards again. So when the bolt comes, well, the block goes forward, it catches the bolt, pulls it back again, lets it go, so on and so forth. And a lot of people take these off because your battery doesn't last as long with them. Got a tea towel for the grease because this is a very well greased L85. I look after this. This is my baby. Yeah, sorry. A lot of people use 1600 batteries. I think I'll be honest with you, I don't pay attention too much to what everybody else runs because it's what works best for them. But the battery doesn't last as long with a blowback in it, and the spring isn't as reliable and everything like that. It lowers the FPS, which is why I need to do it, because I had the standard spring, I had an upgraded spring in it and it was firing in the mid 330s, which for the site I go to, 350 is the maximum. All happy as Larry. Put the blowback in it, that dropped it to below 300 because it's now moving the bolt. I was at site when we chronoed it because I didn't have access to the chrono I normally use, so I just had one spring spare in my toolbox with us, popped that in, fired it again, and it was in excess of 400 FPS, so not good. The reason why I keep my blowback on is I'm running a 2200 milliamp hour battery, 8.4 volt, so battery life ain't an issue, plus I've got two of these and they come to every game with me, so end of the day, battery life ain't an issue. So, into the disassembly. Fairly simple. Now I've got a little dinky screwdriver because at the back end of the gearbox there is a little pin, or a bolt or whatever you want to call it, which has got, I'm not sure what it's called, a flap of some sort. Whoops. There we go. There you go. Which Pin goes through and that holds it out of the way. That holds the gearbox in place. You probably just heard that ping. That was the gearbox releasing pressure. See? All that lovely grease in there. Lovely. Hey. That's what I love about the L85. It's got a split gearbox, so you don't have to take the whole kit and caboodle out to work on the spring, nozzle, piston, whatever, this bit. You only need to take a gearbox out to work on the actual running gear, i.e. the gears and the selector plate in the motor. Now, that little screw in there has to come out. Well, obviously all the screws have to come out, but that little screw has to come out because otherwise the blowback won't come out. So I'm going to pop that out now. Because that is actually sat in two, there's a notch either side. If I move up to you and show you, you'll see there's a notch cut out both sides, just up here. So that sits in there. It's got two little, it's got four little, but it's got little pegs. So it drops in, runs across, and that was the little spring-loaded doobrey I told you about that catches on the spring and the piston. So let's quickly whip these springs, yeah, they're springs, these screws out, and I'll show you what I'm on about. Longest bit in it, bottom screw, now the beauty of a fair few gearboxes actually, especially the quick change ones, you only need very limited tools. I mean, I've got this dinky screwdriver and I've got a screwdriver that switches flat blade Phillips just for unpinging my cheek rest, which is on there, because sometimes it's a bit finicky to get the blowback system back in with the cheek rest in, so not a major issue. And the other thing I want this for is the spring guide, just to release some pressure so it doesn't go pinging off across the room. Luckily on these, the spring guide has got the little tabs on the end which are quite long. There you go. So it actually holds it in place fairly well. So, out with the old, he says. There we go. Keep that on, it's running nicely. And I've got these two springs, you can see. That's the one that was running too high, and this one, got some plenty of grease already over my fingers, so grease it up. Stick it back in there. Hello, doggo. It's got the nice bearings on the end of it, so all this all moves and changes and stops it from binding up. See, this bit isn't particularly the interesting bit. Like I say, most of you who's watching this have seen lots of spring changes before, so this bit's the boring bit. Unless you like watching spring change videos, and each to his own, I suppose. There we go. I think that's all nice and simple. So that is the front one. Ping that back in there. The next bit ish that might be interesting to some of you if you're planning on keeping the blowback function or reinstalling the blowback function on the L85 L86. I'm not sure if all brands are the same, I'll be honest with you. Chuck in the comments if you've got one, if they're different. Be interesting to know, because I've only worked on Army Armament L85s because I know them inside and out, and I could pretty much do them in my sleep. I know one guy that will probably put it in the comments. Hey Mark, not this Mark, another Mark, member of my Airsoft team. He knows what he's doing, he knows what he's on about, and he knows several of the other L85s. Now, it's the top of the gearbox. When this blowback feature goes back in, see a little peg on the bottom? It has to be facing forward, so it will drop in to the pegs, rather the holes for the pegs, and then it will sit in there and stay in line. That's why this screw's important, because if the screw's not in here, it could, I don't know if I've never had it happen luckily, but I don't know if there's enough room in there for it to ping out, but it could ping out whilst it's in use, and that won't be good. Now, one of the things that is good to note, when you're trying to reassemble this, on mine, because it's ancient, the gearbox release, which I'll actually show you, there's a little switch up here which you can reach through the magwell. Well, you're supposed to be able to release that and it will release the tension on the gears, so the gears will switch. Mine is fairly old, so it doesn't actually work. So what I have to do, and there's not a great deal you can do about it other than buying a new piece, and to be honest with you, for the functionality of what it does, it doesn't matter. So I've connected my battery back up for a reason, because when you put all this back on, that sits in there like that. You need to apply a bit of pressure onto the nozzle so it will drop back down. I might be lucky this time. No, I'm not. So you just need to give the trigger a quick pull, smack yourself with the finger with the blowback, so the holes where the pin came out of line up nicely, he says. There we go. And then you can just push it down with a screwdriver to pin it back in. I'll use my flat blade just to push it home. The other thing you need to watch is the little paddle that flips about, so you can grab hold of the pin to pull it out. When you're putting this back together, you have to be careful that it doesn't flick out to the side, otherwise you can't put the gun back together again properly. Trial and error, found that out a long time ago. So this is where it gets technical, and this is where a lot of you are saying, be a right-handed, you jerk, because I can't see what's cracking off. So I'm going to do this backwards. And immediately, there we go. That's what I'm going to do this backwards. With the blowback function, you need to pull back the bolt first. Hang on. Helps if I've got it in the right place first off. Hang on. There we go. You've got to make sure all the wires are out the way, which I hadn't done then, which is why it wasn't sitting nicely. There we go. Right. So pull back the bolt, otherwise it won't sit properly. Slots back in. Now you can release that. That's absolutely fine. That's in right, and a little retention, well, the body pin rather, that slots through the back. Now, the moment of truth is, all the wiring is connected in the front, so I'm just going to connect up this battery here. It's semi-charged, so it'll do the job. So, with any luck, if I've done the right thing, there we go. And that should have now dropped back down to about 320, 330 FPS, which, if it's that, I'm not fussed. I'm not going to panic. I'm going to run it at that, and maybe over the winter, because our team shuts down for a couple of months over the winter because it gets bloody cold in the UK, and well, Christmas is coming up, and I've got my family and all that sort of stuff. Wow, 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 woe is me. So we tend to have a winter shutdown. So if push comes to shove over the winter break, I'll have a muck about when I've got access to a chrono and see if I can up the FPS a bit more. But for now, I'm not fussed. It's not going to cause any issues being at about 325, 330 I guesstimate it's roughly at. So I'm not worried at all. And I'm keeping talking because I know some of you wanted to see something that I've got that I carry my L85 in. And my new 1911, which I mentioned in the review, well, there was a review of the actual gun, wanted to see if it fit in my case properly, didn't I? Well, once I've put this in, I can put my L85 away, he says. There we go. Yes, put my L85 away. Of course, yeah, there we go. And I can show you its new case. That's a new case. I've had it a couple of weeks, but it took some time to get it right. So, it's very heavy. It was a howitzer case. An actual Army howitzer case, not for the howitzer itself, for the howitzer rounds. It used to carry 2 105mm high explosive howitzer shells. Pretty. Anywho, come on mate, I just burped down at you. Good fun, eh? Now you can't really see me, but let me feel like T-Rex. My arms ain't long enough. There we go. Right. Then clean box. Plop that back in there. He says, that's in there. That's in there. Right. And now I can show you. And what I've done is get some EVA foam, stack it up, cut a nice hole in it. All spangly. Battery sits up there. Obviously one battery remains in there anyway, which is fairly quick and easy to switch out if you need to. Got a couple of magazines that are in it. I'll stand up and show you. The screwdriver, which will do most of the maintenance work on my L85, goes in there as well. Yes, I've got a clean rim rod with a bit of lace tied around it. It's because I use it for cleaning. Funnily enough. I always chuck a couple of them in there. Electrical tape rather. You can never have too much of that. In fact, I need the battery out because I'm playing a game tomorrow. So, I need to charge them buggers up. In fact, I'll do that now whilst I'm talking to you. Just because it's not a major issue, he says. Off camera slightly, but I'm sure you don't mind. Okay. Now that's that battery charging as well. And as you can see, 1911 fits in there absolutely beautifully. And its magazine fits in there nice as well. Now these, if you remember me saying, if you've watched me review on the MEU 1911, the Raven edition, you'll have remembered me saying that I wasn't sure whether the new one was going to fit. Well, it does, and I didn't even have to cut any out. Radios, because our team like to be commed up so we know where everybody is and what we're doing. Speed loader, naturally, because of the pistol. Little kniff. Knife, for those of you who don't understand my crap English. And nice 3D printed British Army bayonet. Sticking on the end of it. Because they don't like it up on Mr. Mannering. So, that's that kit and caboodle there. I'm not going to bother doing that all up properly. And you're not going to hear me, so to speak. 1, 2. Oh yes, and you'll be interested to know, well, or not interested to know, this, with a gun in it and everything, is very heavy. So, I got a knackered mower in the shed. I put wheels on it. Now I can wheel it about. It don't weigh a ton, and obviously the wheels do come off. So if we're using it for a prop or something like that, watch this space. It has been used as a prop. Then they come off, and it still looks like a British Army howitzer ammo tin. Anyway, that was quick, fairly easy, fairly simple. How to change the spring in a electric blowback well, it's an R85, 16-year-old Army Armament R85 L85A1. If there's anything in particular that you guys want to see, if I've got it in my armoury, I'll stick a video up of it. I've got a fairly extensive armoury, but drop it in the comments. I'll see what I can do. Should be having a review of the fairly new ARP 556 with the M4 style mags coming up soon, and there'll be a shooting test of the 1911 Raven edition coming up, because like I say, I'm going for a game tomorrow, and they've got a fairly substantial range that I can fire at and have a little play and show you. Hopefully I'll get some game footage for tomorrow, from tomorrow, up so you can view that as well. But for now, thanks for watching.